Hey dudes and dudettes, this is Paul Acevedo from Windows Central, here with a video review of Gears of War Ultimate Edition for Xbox One. It's also coming to Windows 10. The original Gears of War was released in 2006, that's 9 years before the release of Ultimate Edition. It quickly became a killer app for the Xbox 360, and also became one of the most influential third-person shooters of its time, spawning a series which will soon continue with Gears 4 for Xbox One. Gears of War Ultimate Edition retains everything that made the original game so special, as well as several new improvements. Let's talk about why Gears is such a good game. For one, it takes place in a beautiful, ruined world. It's a science fiction world with some elements of the real world, like cars and trucks. All of the original artistry was very well done, and the story, although not very deep, is interesting. It follows a group of soldiers called Cogs as they attempt to save humanity from the alien locusts. Or are they aliens? The Gears of War game design is really excellent. It did several things that set it well above other third-person shooters before it, and the first of those is the active reload mechanic. Instead of just tapping a button once to reload, in this game you'll usually tap it twice. Pressing it once starts the reload process, and then you need to press the button again to stop a moving line at the top right corner of the screen in just the right spot, and if you do that you'll reload faster, and that clip of ammo will deal extra damage. Active reloading basically makes a normally mundane element interesting, and thus makes the moment-to-moment gameplay more fun. Gears also has great melee kills, most notably kills with the Lancer, which is a rifle with a chainsaw attached. There is some risk to using the chainsaw on enemies because if they stagger you, then they can easily deal damage, but if you catch them unawares, then you'll kill them right away, and it's very satisfying to watch. The game also has a cool roadie run, which just makes things a little bit more cinematic. Holding the A button causes you to start the roadie run and the camera perspective shifts. Then you can kind of steer around for a bit. It always feels really good trying to navigate around obstacles and basically get somewhere quickly without getting hit. Gears of War also has some cool horror elements. It was partially inspired by Resident Evil 4, so at times the enemies will kind of jump out and surprise you. Throughout the campaign, you play as a group of 4 soldiers. 2 of those can be controlled by humans. There's times when the 2 human players have to split up. Normally, players can revive each other, but when you're split up, you can't revive each other, and it adds a lot of tension, although these parts can sometimes be frustrating on the highest difficulty. And finally, Gears of War makes collectibles fun. There are 33 cog tags in this version, that's 3 more than the original 360 version. Cog tags are dog tags dropped by fallen soldiers, and their presence in an environment is always marked by a red spray-painted Gears of War logo, so it gives you a hint about where to look, which keeps it from being too frustrating. And also the game keeps track of how many cog tags you've collected in each of the 5 acts, so it narrows it down a little bit. If you miss some, you'll know which act you need to go back in to collect them. Now, as for the Ultimate Edition, it has some nice improvements, most notably the graphics. The textures and models have been redone, and they look fantastic. Especially the texture maps are very high quality now. The improved graphics essentially make the game look like how we remember it. The original Gears looked fantastic when it first came out, and now thanks to the Ultimate Edition, it still does look fantastic when we revisit it. The Ultimate Edition also adds some new content that was originally found in the PC version and not the 360 version. You'll find these new chapters in Act 5, the final act of the game. They basically take place before the original Act 5 content. The team gets chased around by a Brumac through several chapters. A Brumac is a giant monster. Unfortunately, we can't show you the new Act 5 content in this video, but it is quite good and enjoyable. One slight exception might be a challenging section where you have to split up inside of a theater of some sort. One person goes up into the balcony, the other person has to stay down below, and the person who stays on the ground level unfortunately can't take very much cover, so when you're playing on the highest difficulty, that can be really frustrating, and my partner and I probably had to repeat that section 30 to 50 times before we completed it on the highest difficulty. So, on other difficulties, it'd be a different story. Shortly after that, you'll eventually reach the Brumac fight. So this is a big thing that was cut from the original 360 version, is that you get to fight the giant monster Brumac, which we didn't get to do until Gears of War 2 before. But yeah, you do get to fight him on the ground, just Marcus and Dom. It's an exciting fight. Then it segs into the original Act 5 content, and basically it gives the game just a little bit more flow. You have a little more context for how you got to the train station, and that's a good thing. Multiplayer has also been somewhat improved, and again, I'm not allowed to show you the multiplayer content because we're releasing this video before release date, but it does include 4 new multiplayer modes: Team Deathmatch, King of the Hill, Blitz, and Nasher 2 vs 2. And I haven't gotten to play a lot of multiplayer prior to release anyway, since not many people are playing, but I did get to check out some Nasher 2 vs 2, and that was quite fun. Multiplayer has a few other improvements, such as spotting, which allows you to mark the location of enemies for your partners to see. And there's a new spectator mode. You can have up to 2 spectators in a multiplayer game, and that's to help broadcast the game for tournaments. The Gears of War competitive multiplayer has always been really great, and from what little I played of it, it still is really great. It has a slower pace than games like Halo or Call of Duty, but I personally enjoyed a lot more, and if you enjoyed Gears of War multiplayer before, then you're going to love it in Ultimate Edition. Outside of multiplayer, there is also some bonus content. Collecting the 33 cog tags will unlock a total of 5 DC Gears of War comic books. You can read those on your system. It's not a very fancy browser, but it is cool if you want a little more Gears of War story, and it kind of helps sell you on the comics, I guess. You can also unlock environmental concept art for each of the 5 acts, simply by completing those acts. I like the environmental concept art, but I really would have liked to see some character designs too, because that's a lot more interesting to me. And finally, you can view all of the cinematics independently once you've seen them, which is really cool. Gears of War Ultimate Edition is a great game, but it's not perfect. Although the developers at the Coalition have improved it significantly, there are some things that they didn't fix. For instance, your teammate AI in single player, or in co-op, is really not very good. It got better in Gears of War 2 and especially 3, and unfortunately those AI improvements do not carry over to this one, and that means that your teammates will not revive you when you get downed. They will just sit there and let you bleed out. And in single player, when you get downed, you just get a game over. The game does look fairly impressive graphically, but one thing I noticed is that in the area where rain is coming down, the rain splashes on the ground, but it does not splash on your characters, which takes away from the feeling that it's actually raining. If you're going to have video game rain, it needs to land on both the environment and on characters within the environment. The cinematics have been completely redone for this. I could be wrong, but it seems like a few of the Act 1 cinematics are a little faster paced than they really should be. But my real problem with the cinematics is that a few of the minor stranded characters that you meet in the middle of the game are poorly voiced compared to all the other characters. This seems to happen because they're having the main actors voice the side characters, but those are all really minor complaints and they don't take away from the grandeur of this particular game. Gears of War Ultimate Edition costs $40 at launch, and if you enjoy the series at all, or even if you never played the series, if you're just interested in playing a cool science fiction third-person shooter, then you definitely want to get it. Yes, many of us have played Gears of War before, but it has been so many years for most of us, and the game is better than it's ever been before. Now that it looks so nice, it's got a little bit of extra multiplayer content and single-player content. It's easily worth revisiting. Thanks for watching. Read our full review at windowscentral.com. And remember, don't hate, appreciate.